Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Tuesday, the 14th of August, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. Artists have been an important component of the downtown Tucson community for decades, and changes have been part of their picture for many years. Tonight, we check in with one of these people to see how current conditions are forcing him to be more innovative with his projects. Luis Carrion has that story.
If you take a quick trip around the downtown area in Tucson, it quickly becomes apparent that there are some major changes taking place. Construction projects can be found around every corner, and navigating the frequent traffic detours requires a bit of patience and understanding.
This is downtown. We do U-turns.
David Aguirre is an artist and the executive director of Dinnerware Art Space. He says Dinnerware is a nonprofit art collective that has been in existence in downtown Tucson since 1979. Part of that time was spent here.
So this is the Steinfeld warehouse from the old Steinfeld department store. It was their supply warehouse. And around 1986, ADOT purchased it, and it was empty until artists moved in here.
Aguirre says Dinnerware once occupied part of this building, which is now owned by the Warehouse Arts Management Organization, or WAMO. He says the city recently funded major upgrades to the building that include stabilizing the walls and foundation and replacing the roof.
Federal money that the city had, and it wasn't used the way it was intended, and then so they're going to have to give it back to the feds. So the city said, well, what can we use? What have you got? So what about the Steinfeld warehouse? Great, let's put it there.
Aguirre says the Steinfeld building is well on its way to becoming an important component of the downtown art scene, and Dinnerware may have played a role in solidifying the building's relevance.
Well, we're standing in front of the what I call the community chalkboard. And it's at the corner of Congress Street and Arizona Avenue.
Dinnerware Art Space began here in a small building adjacent to this alley. Aguirre says this 40-foot community chalkboard is a recent project that in a way represents the evolution of Dinnerware's artistic efforts in the community.
You know, in a sense, it's sort of an analog Facebook, if you want to call it that. I mean, people can come to this chalkboard, there's chalk provided on either side, and people can write messages to whoever. They can write their name, they can write a message to the world, hello world, whatever. They can do a drawing.
This community chalkboard is a simple concept, and it's only a small part of the artistic legacy that Dinnerware has created in downtown. Since 1979, the arts organization has brought a vitality into an otherwise neglected area by repurposing vacant buildings.
It feels, in one sense, like a catch-22. But let me give you an example. The building we're in right now was empty. It's been empty for about 4 years. It had a for rent sign for 4 years on the side of the building. Nothing. And I finally approached the realtor and the owners to say, why don't you let me bring Dinnerware over here, and we need a space, and let's do something with it. And it took about 8 weeks to get them to think in a little bit of a different way. But we finally did it. We finally got agreed on a lease, and now we're working on the space. It's lit. It's being cleaned up and worked on. It's being brought up to code for a change.
Aguirre says funding for the arts can be a difficult proposition in today's economy, and grant money is often hard to come by.
So where I see a need, I tend to come in and think about how, as artists, how we can come in and maybe work something out in a new way. And they're doing this in Oakland. It's called Pop-Up Hood in Oakland, where they've approached landowners to say, let us do something with these spaces, get something going, and then maybe charge us some rent once we get something going. Let's all take a risk. It's a shared risk thing. And I think that's where we need to go. And artists, I've been doing this for years. Maybe they don't know it. I've realized it.
Aguirre is quick to find new and innovative ways to partner within the community for the sake of art. His latest project connects the culinary arts with the collective spirit of Dinnerware to help support artists and their work.
The Tucson Food Truck Roundup is a fundraising tool, our main fundraising tool currently for our nonprofit.
The partnership between Dinnerware and the growing community of food trucks seems to have struck a chord with the public. Events such as this take place throughout town, and devoted fans are kept up to date through social media.
The food trucks and the chefs that run those food trucks, it took me a while to realize this, but they're like our artists. They're culinary artists. And really what they want to do is stay in their kitchens and create menu items and create food and feed people. That's all they want to do. And so I help to organize them and create events using their skills.
According to Aguirre, Dinnerware has always operated at the fringe of what may be commercially desirable territory.
In a sense, we're sort of a development project. We go in beforehand and kind of prop up an area or a building and make it into something, give it a theme, give it a use, and then maybe we have to move on. But there's a trade-off. We get lower rent in exchange for, and we have skills in-house where we can fix up a building, and we get to use it for a while.
Ultimately, Aguirre says he would like to see Dinnerware have a permanent home, but for the time being, he will continue to work with artists, both culinary and otherwise.
Now we continue the conversation about downtown Tucson, including the multi-million-dollar modern streetcar construction project and its impact in the area. For that, we are joined by Michael Keith. He is the president of the Downtown Tucson Partnership. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So lots of activity in downtown Tucson, obviously on the university campus as well with the modern streetcar. What's going on in your area?
They're moving forward with construction. They think they're going to be done by the middle of September with the section from 2ll Avenue to Stone. A little bit later, a couple weeks after that, for the section in front of the Fox, and they're already begun construction on Broadway.
And one of the messages that you've had all along is we are still open for business. Please don't stay away from downtown.
And I want to thank this station for everything you guys have done to promote that. Yeah, those businesses are still there. They still need business. It's really easy to get to, remarkably easy, because you can come in. The garages are easy to get to, and there's no traffic along those Congress and Broadway, so it's pretty nice.
So the sidewalks are still open. I mean, there may be construction in the middle of the street, but you can still park in the surrounding area? Yeah,
in fact, for Second Saturday, this last Saturday, we had a really good crowd down there despite the heat, and they seem to have no problem finding their way around.
So you are very excited about the future of downtown.
I'm so thrilled.
Lots of construction underway, other than the modern streetcar.
Yeah, well, the student housing projects broke ground next to the Rialto and on top of the Centro parking garage. So there are going to be 400 student beds going in there. We're hearing anywhere from 10 to 14 restaurants coming in the next 16 months, possibility of a boutique hotel. I mean, the place is just alive right now, and interest on every space down there.
Let's talk about some of those projects that are on their schedule at the moment. You were saying a brewery, a restaurant, different things going on?
Thunder Canyon Brewery is coming down to a place that they're renovating on the corner of 5th and Broadway, and I was in that space the other day. It's fabulous. Riley's just opened up a pizza place in the old Riley's building on the corner of Scott and Pennington, and it's been packed ever since they opened up. A beautiful building with really high ceilings and light coming from 3 directions, and they just did this beautiful job of preserving the historic authenticity of the building while kind of putting in this hip modern pizzeria. The people that own Thule's and the Lost Barrio are opening a restaurant at 57 Broadway. There is a group that's bought the Grill, which had gone out of business a few months ago, and they're going to convert that into a restaurant bar concept. And then there's the corner of Scott and Congress where there was a motorcycle shop. He's decided to go ahead and open a club there.
So what do you think finally happened, or was it a multitude of things that needed to come together in order for this interest to...
I think basically it was time. And we were the only major city in the West that really hadn't renovated its downtown. I think a lot of the projects that the city did, like 4th Avenue underpass and paving the streets and building the garages, all sort of set the stage. But the big thing was a modern streetcar.
And what about getting people to move there? Because we often hear about you can't have a successful downtown if people don't live there, residents.
Right, that's coming too. So we're seeing 4 student housing projects, 1 market rate project in the Central Business District, 39 luxury apartments going up on the corner of Stone and Broadway, and they're going to break ground in September on that. And then there's 2 projects being planned for the west side of the freeway in the Mercado District, market rate housing project over there as well. And then up and down 4th Avenue, there's a whole slew of student housing projects going on right now.
What about a condominium project that had been put on hold, a controversial land?
It's going to be a little later for that. And typically after financial crisis like we've had and in redevelopment districts, you usually start with student housing if you're close to a university Then it goes to market rate apartments and then to for sale housing. And I think that's the next phase. But I'm going to guess we're probably at least another year out before we see anything being built for sale.
So do you think that Tucson will eventually have a market where people want to live in a sort of a apartment / condominium kind of area as opposed to the nice house with the pool and everything else?
There's an enormous pent-up demand for this. I hear this every day from people that say, when this is done, if there's housing, I'm going to move downtown because everything's going to be there, especially with the 4-mile streetcar. You can go all the way from UMC where you can go schedule doctor's appointments, stop at McHale, watch a basketball game, have dinner on 4th Avenue, pick up groceries and walk home. I mean, you're going to be able to really age in place on that 4-mile strip like you can't anywhere else in town.
There's a little bit of a controversy right now going on with some height restrictions approved by the city, the mayor and council. What is the situation in the downtown area as far as what the developers want when it comes to height?
We have a little different situation there because it's a central business district already and it has some fairly tall buildings. But there's always going to be a dialogue that needs to take place between the edge of the historic districts and the areas for redevelopment. I think there has to be a really honest dialogue. I think there's a concept called design in context where you look at what's surrounding that site and try to fit the building in appropriately. But that's a fairly subjective issue for a lot of people.
And what would you say to people who still haven't gone to downtown Tucson, even though they've lived in this area for many years?
Every time this happens, when somebody comes down that hasn't been down there, they have this look on their face of wonderment and said, I had no idea all this was going on. And that's what we're seeing now. And
then obviously, I would imagine lots of celebrations in 2013 with the streetcars finished.
We'll have quite a few parties. There'll be a heck of a coming out party. But we're seeing a lot of other festivals and events starting to look at downtown along with the 40 or so we already have. It's going to be the only place you're going to want to be on a weekend, really, is downtown.
Okay, well, Michael Keith, the CEO of the Downtown Tucson Partnership, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lee is the bloodiest general in United States history.
He is revered in a country he turned against.
His honor is involved in the defense of his people, the white people of his social class.
But the embodiment of the lost cause was no marble man.
He told one of his colleagues the great mistake of his life was having taken a military education.
Robert E. Lee on American Experience.
Tonight at 9 on PBS 6.
The statistics in Arizona concerning drownings may seem surprising. Hundreds of children have died in our state in the last decade. And even though the month of August means that more kids are getting out of the pool and into the classroom, this is Drowning Impact Awareness Month. Mark McLemore has an interview about this topic and why you may begin to see displays of purple ribbons in your community.
Joining me now to talk about Drowning Impact Awareness Month and some safety programs that are available, we've got Tracy Koslowski. She's the fire marshal for the Drexel Heights Fire District. Thank you for joining us, Tracy.
Glad to be here.
Tell us how your involvement in this program originated.
Sure. Well, the fire service, traditionally we do fire safety public education programs, but the fire department doesn't just respond to fire calls. The majority of our calls are emergency medical calls. So we started getting involved in doing some public education efforts with bike safety and water safety.
And August is apparently statistically a very bad month for accidents around the pool.
Yeah, in the summer alone, May, June, July, and August are really the high numbers that we see. Of course, in Arizona, it's a year-round issue, but those are our high months. And August particularly because of back-to-school distractions, and maybe we've become a little bit complacent with our pool safety rules.
So tell us what Drowning Impact Awareness Month hopes to accomplish in August.
Well, it's the largest statewide event, Drowning Impact Awareness Month, and it is, the goal is for everybody to be vigilant, to make sure that we're not distracted, to make sure that we're still watching kids around the water, and we're making sure that the kids are being safe and they're following the water safety rules.
And what kind of way have you found maybe to simplify those rules so that they stay in people's heads?
Yeah, we've come up with a branding, a safety message. It's the ABCs of water safety, and we figure that's easy for the kids to remember as well as the adults. But A stands for adult supervision. It's really important that constantly watching the kids. They're so mobile and they're into so much, and so we need to make sure that we're constantly watching them. And it's important for kids to know that it's not safe for them to go near the water unless an adult is actively watching them. And B is for barriers. We want to make sure there's pool fencing around the pool, not just around the backyard, but around specifically the pool. Other barriers could be like alarms on the doors and windows to alert parents that somebody got out of the house. And then C is for classes. We want to make sure that adults have CPR classes and that kids have swimming lessons.
So adult supervision, barriers, and CPR.
Classes, yeah.
Classes.
You got it, yeah.
Okay.
ABCs of water safety.
And you're also trying to spread the idea that you need to have a water watcher appointed even in a family group. So tell us what a water watcher is and the responsibilities there.
Yeah, a water watcher is much like a lifeguard. You have a lifeguard at a public pool. Well, when we're in our backyards, we need to make sure that we have somebody watching the kids there too. So it's not safe to just be in the water with the kids. You kind of need to act like a lifeguard, be outside the water, but not be on cell phones or reading a book or distracted by answering the door. That you're vigilant and you're watching the kids and making sure that nobody slips under the water. Drowning is silent, and we want to make sure that somebody's watching in case a child does slip under the water. Just, time is of the essence.
Well, the impact on a family who has suffered a loss through drowning is immeasurable, but you told me a statistic earlier when we were talking about how many children perish from water-related accidents in Arizona.
Yeah, in Arizona, we lose about a classroom full of about 30 kids on average per year to drowning. So that's huge. Arizona's second in the nation for drowning rates, and so we want to make sure that we're vigilant. We do our water safety and our pool safety programs, and that's why August came about, is because it's like we still need to be vigilant. We still need to be watching the kids and not be distracted.
So back up for a second. You say we're second in the nation for drowning deaths?
Yeah, just behind the state of Florida.
That seems, for a state without much coastline, that seems like an astounding statistic.
Makes sense with Florida, but it doesn't with us. But I think it's because of our warm temperatures. There's so many pools, and so there's a lot of issues with that. We also have, drownings that happen in bathtubs. We have drownings that happen in buckets of water. So when there's a good monsoon storm, if there's buckets left out in the yard and they fill up with water, sometimes we don't think about that, but that's another scenario. Also with the washes, when it's monsoon season, it's so exciting to go outside and see, it was a dry riverbed, most of the year. All of a sudden it has water in it. And so we have lost some kids to that as well.
Well, tell us what the purple ribbon, that is the symbol of this campaign, symbolizes.
Yeah, purple ribbon is to remind us it's Drowning Impact Awareness Month. And so we wear the purple ribbons, and when people ask us, what is that ribbon for? It's the opportunity to share the ABCs of water safety. And sometimes it's the opportunity to remember the kids that we've lost. We've, again, had, already this year we've had a drowning, we've lost a child. So, and we're only halfway through the year, so.
In spreading this message, I understand that you're kind of hoping that other pool safety and swimming lesson instructors and so forth coordinate a little bit to share this message. Tell us about that.
Yeah, everybody has their own water safety campaign, and it's really good that, we're spread throughout the community. Local first responders will have programs, the hospitals will have programs, so that's great. It's wonderful to see. The purpose of the Purple Ribbon campaign in August is for all of us to come together, and that no matter what no matter what program we do, that we're still ensuring about the ABCs of water safety. Everyone's sharing the same message, so it's a consistent message. Hopefully will be a louder message.
Well, thanks for sharing this message with us, and when people see these purple ribbons out in the community now, they'll know what they symbolize.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
The Tucson Water Department has a new director who started to work there in June, but he began his municipal water career in the department in the 1980s. According to the city, Alan Forrest was hired after an extensive national recruitment process. Andrea Kelly has an interview with the new director.
Joining us now in the studio is Alan Forrest, the new director of the Tucson Water Department. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
So you started the job just about 2 months ago on June 4th. Why don't you give us a little introduction of yourself, where you came from, and your background in water?
Sure. I'm a I'm a Arizona-born native, but I've spent most of my life right here in Tucson area. Went to University of Arizona, started my career with Tucson Water in 1985. So this is a chance for me to come back. I stayed with Tucson Water from about 85 to 1994. Since then, I've worked for other water utilities right here in the Tucson area, some of the smaller water utilities. So I have about 20 years background with public water utilities. And then the last 7 years I spent with a consulting engineering firm here in Tucson, again, doing water, wastewater projects in Tucson. So this is really a coming home for me, kind of full circle, so I'm really excited about working for Tucson Water again.
And what are some of the projects that you are working on now that you've taken over the department?
Well, we just broke ground on a new water treatment plant. It's part of our ongoing effort for treating water in the Tucson Airport remediation project. And this is an add-on to the existing treatment that we've been doing for years in that area, but it's specifically to remove contaminant. It's called 1,4-dioxane. And the reason we're doing this is because EPA has some new guidance coming out. It wasn't a regulated constituent previously, but it will be in the future. And so we wanted to get ahead of the game and get started on this treatment plant so that we can provide good, safe, quality drinking water for our customers.
So Tucson Water was cleaning, I believe, cleaning the water there for decades now for TCE, and you're adding dioxane. Say it again?
Yeah, 1,4-dioxane. That's correct. We've been treating for TCE for many, many years. So this is an add-on treatment process. The process that we're using today will not remove the 1,4-dioxane. So we have to put an add-on component to the treatment process to remove that. So that's what we're doing. It'll be about a year in construction. So sometime next fall we should be up and running.
Okay. And the department is also working on maximizing the cap allocation or taking all of the cap allocation that Tucson Water has, the Central Arizona project.
That's correct. And we've, as a lot of people know, we've built a huge system out in the Aguirre Valley where we recharge the CAP water and then we recover it through recovery wells and a system of pumps and reservoirs to bring that water back into the system. So previously we had what we called our Central Aguirre Valley system. That's been up and running for many years, but we recently built our Southern Aguirre Valley system. It's the same concept, just a different location. And we have we've been recharging water there for years now, but the recovery system is what we're building right now, and we're in the final stages of construction. Should have that done within the next 6 months, 8 months or so, and then we'll have that whole system up and running. We can shift to other priorities.
Okay. And I'd like to ask a question that I hear, when I do reporting on Tucson Water, water rates going up, when there's increased requests of the Tucson Water Department for the City Council to approve. And that is that customers are being asked to conserve water from time to time, or all the time, really.
Right.
Conserve water, and then when they do, they find that their bills go up. Can you explain how that process works and why people are seeing that?
Yeah, as you know, we've had a real good conservation ethic here in Tucson for many, many years. So we've tried to encourage that and continue, and it's been a very successful program for us. Tucson has one of the lowest per capita water uses in the country, and that's a good thing. The side issue is what you brought up, is it appears to folks that, yes, we're using less water, we're saving water like you asked us to, but yet we still have rate increases. And that's true, but the rate increases are not necessarily tied to the fact that we're serving less water and we're charging for less water. It really it's more a function that we have a lot of fixed costs. We operate a huge system. We cover hundreds of square miles of territory, thousands of miles of pipe, pumps, wells, and there's a fixed cost associated with operating and maintaining those, and we're not immune to inflation like any other business or governmental entity. So inflation is really outstripping the savings that we would see from less water use, and so that's really where the increases are coming. I guess an easy way to say it is, yes, we've been doing a great job conserving water. We're delivering a whole lot less water, but our costs are still going up. We would have these additional costs and our rates would go up whether we were saving water or not. It's just the nature of our business and the economy right now.
And some of those costs are maintenance related, things like that?
Correct. Yeah, a lot of it's maintenance related and just operational, electricity, power.
Staff.
And staff, definitely staff.
Great. Well, thanks for coming in and giving us a chance to meet you, the new water director for Tucson Water Department. Thanks.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
When you think of impressive trees and gardens, you may not think of a college campus, but the University of Arizona's varied vegetation attracts many amateurs and experts. The campus gives you an opportunity to learn about familiar and exotic species. In tonight's video postcard from photographer and editor John Dinayazi, we join a tree tour from the campus arboretum. You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, what is Arizona doing to create jobs and improve education? Also, a local school district is getting excellent grades from the Arizona Department of Education. I'm Tony Paniagua. From all of us at Arizona Public Media, have a great night.